Across the Spider-Verse really is amazing, and I think you're going to remember the day that you watched it. There's going to be a before Across the Spider-Verse. There's going to be an after Across the Spider-Verse because this really is a revolution in animation and performances that we've seen in animation, in score. It is such an incredible blend of everything that you know and love of Spider-Man, and it just dials it to 11. It is beginning to end just wondrous. Hello and welcome to the movie podcast review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. My name is Daniel. I am one of your hosts today. And joining me in the Spider Society is my fellow Spider-Man-dem. We're just going to keep, anytime there's an opportunity to put Mandem in the announcement of who we are, we're going to do it.
We'll
I think
find a
we're
way.
going to do it. We'll find a way. That first voice that you heard, that is Shahbaz. Hello, Shahbaz.
Hello. I don't know what spider character I'd be. Would I be like I'll be the movie Spider-Man. Like I'm just like watching movies and then spinning webs and that's it.
So, sorry, are you spinning webs while watching movies, or like how are you?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah. So like
weird
when a movie why is that weird?
because you're distracting. You're spinning
Yeah, it's
webs
like
while we're trying to watch a
like
movie.
trying to watch a movie. You hear,
Yeah.
like, okay.
But that's what I do. That's what I do already. I'm already doing that.
Okay.
So I'm
Okay,
I'm
that's
adding actual webs to it, you know?
Interesting. Okay, all right. And the other Spider-Man dem joining us is Anthony. Hello, Anthony.
Hello. If I was a Spider-Man, I think I'd just be like quiet Spider-Man. Just don't
Yeah.
talk to me. If you need help, I'll come and
Silent
help you.
spider.
But I'm in the corner with the cigarette and gritty,
Okay.
and I'm probably like kind of like
Noir.
Spider-Man noir. It's cool, man. Everyone likes a mysterious Spider-Man.
I like that. I like that. Of course, this is the movie podcast, and this is our spoiler-free review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I want to say a huge, huge thank you to our friends at Sony Pictures Canada for inviting us to watch this film. We have a lot of incredible coverage coming your way on the movie podcast. So if this is the first time you're listening to us, hey, how's it going? Thanks for being here. You can catch brand new episodes of our show all throughout the week. We have interviews, reviews, and we have main episodes all available for you on all podcast feeds and on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Let us know if you're excited for Across the Spider-Verse. And who's your favorite Spider-Man? Because we want to know. We'd love to hear that. We also have a great Discord channel that you can join. All of our information will be in the show notes below. We will have a spoiler channel open for this very movie. So if you want to come in, join the Spider Society, talk spoilers with us once this movie comes out, you're more than welcome to do so. And of course, if you want to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd, you could do that at the Movie Podcast on all socials. We have some great videos, great photos, great content for you to enjoy and really stay in the know of what's going on here on the Movie Podcast, because there's always something to watch, always something to listen to. So make sure you stick around for us. And stick around, yes, that is a spider pun. I didn't mean to do it, but it just happened. We have lots of great episodes out. If you want to hear our thoughts on The Little Mermaid, if you want to hear our thoughts on Blackberry or interviews for Blackberry, go check out all of those incredible episodes. And then later this week, if you want more Spider-Man, if you need more Spider-Man in your life, we do have some special guests joining us on the show, including the directors for this very movie and some of the stars. So you don't want to miss a thing. Don't miss it. Aerosmith said it. You don't want to miss a thing. And of course, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse swings into theaters on June 2nd. This has been a long time coming, this film. This has been one that we've been really waiting for. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's swing right into things. And Shahbaz, I want you to start us off with your first reactions to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is the best movie of the year. The animation is groundbreaking. The story is so much darker, and it's told so well across so many different locations and across so many different characters that we're kind of getting introduced to. What I love so much about this movie is that it doesn't waste any time kind of picking things up, where we kind of last left off that final movie, Into the Spider-Verse, to where we are now. Our favorite characters are back. They look even better. But what I love about this movie is that, it starts with Gwen. This is such a Gwen story. You get to understand a lot more about Hailee Steinfeld and her character of Spider-Gwen, where her Peter Parker went, what happened in that story. And what I love so much about this movie as well is, compared to the first one, the animation is so different. I mean, the DNA is still there, but each character is given their own sense of style. And I love that, when you look at Spider Gwen's world, there's more of that watercolor kind of look to it, and it keeps popping and exploding on screen. Then you move to characters like Hobie, aka Spider Punk, and it's that British magazine era, just cutouts and loud,
Magazine cutouts and just like
yeah,
sketching and
yeah,
yeah.
super loud, super all over the place. It just, there were so many times, and I was sitting with you guys, and I just kept saying, "Oh my god!" Like, I was in disbelief as to how this movie looked and how this movie was being told. And it's longer on the animation side of things, just kind of north of 2 hours. But each minute of this film, it serves a purpose. Each character in this movie serves a purpose. You're gonna be, if you could pause in a theater, you would, because there'd be so many times you'd be pointing at different things and being like, "Wow, who's that? Who's that? Who's that?" And it
Yeah.
ends at such a beautiful place too. I know, obviously, we're not gonna get into spoilers, but like I said in the beginning of this is a much darker story, and it's carried by all the performances. You have Shameik Moore back as Miles, who's phenomenal, and of course Oscar Isaac as Miguel O'Hara, who's just killing it. There's so many great Spider-Man characters, and again, Issa Rae as Jessica Drew, phenomenal. Everyone in this movie is so great, but on top of that, it's not just a simple animated Spider-Man movie. It's so much deeper than that, and you see that in every frame of this movie.
Yeah, it really is a celebration of Spider-Man. Across the Spider-Verse celebrates everything that makes Spider-Man special across all multiverses, across all storylines and comic books over this last, 60 plus years of Spider-Man. We're getting representation from all areas of the comic book world like we've really never seen before. Into the Spider-Verse was just the appetizer. We're really diving into something really incredible with Across the Spider-Verse. I'm going to kick it to Anthony. I want to hear your first reactions, and we'll start stirring the pot. Anthony, jump in.
The first one was such an evolution in animation. Like, it literally created a new visual language for us to experience on the big screen. And what Across the Spider-Verse has done is just evolve that even further. I I was completely mesmerized by every single scene in this movie. It's just, and I remember I was looking at the trailer, I was building my movie or my GIF for my reaction, and I literally went frame by frame. And the amount of work that just goes into building this movie, where one frame is black and white, well, the other frame is black and white with a bit of speckle, when the next frame is black and white with a bit of speckle and a little bit of color pop, and then the next one is back to something else, and this is all taking place in 3D animated sequence, and it's so quick that you don't even notice it. It's almost like when I want to get this, when I buy this film and look at it, I want to go through it frame by frame because there is so much detail. And Daniel, you took you took my words. It is a celebration of Spider-Man, but it's also a celebration of art. We talk about greatest animated films of all time, and we've gone from 2D to 3D, and this movie does such a great job of taking every single animated movie, but also technique, also design. You have things like watercolors, you have Renaissance style drawings in this, you have 3D animations, you have 2D animations, you have sketch, you have inking. They still incorporate those Kirby dots and those Kirby crackles, they're all part of it, but now you have vibes of Neo Tokyo from Akira, and they just combine everything into this huge event that is 2 hours long. So you're just kind of like captivated by everything that's happening on the screen. And you're almost like you're on drugs at some point. And yeah, Spider Punk being that old, like, grunge rock, those posters that you would have seen from like the Sex Pistols, like that style, that era, that 60s, 70s, sorry, 50s, 60s, 70s vibe. There's so much things to just feast with your eyes. Like, my eyes were like, I can't
Yeah,
make them
yeah.
any wider.
It was like
I can't make
Clockwork
them any
Orange
wider.
for you.
And
You were just
yeah.
there.
and
And they all blend. They somehow all blend together, and you're getting these different versions
Yeah.
of these different art styles, and they just seamlessly blend with one another. You're getting like a Todd McFarlane looking Spider-Man, and you're
Yeah.
getting like the Tom Lyle. You're getting all of these Spider-Man, designs that we know and love, but they just seamlessly
It
blend in
works.
these worlds, and they don't contradict one another. It's wild.
the world that Miguel O'Hara is in, Like, there's they traverse the multiverse of sorts, and the world that Miguel kind of lives in or takes place feels very similar to like a Studio Ghibli film. Like it just has that art style, that art deco that is very Japanese. There's a lot of different animation. And I think if you are in that world of animation and art, you're going to just love this film. But that's just the animation part. The story alone, which is one of those stories that is, telling a message that it is about family. It's about Miles growing up. He's trying to figure out what's next in his life. He's been Spider-Man for a year, and I love the family dynamic behind it. I love Gwen's story also because they elaborate a lot more on her. There is so many things, and I think my favorite new character is Spider-Punk, who's played by Daniel Kaluuya. He's a Spider-Man that is vocal, anti-establishment, anti-patriarchy, anti-everything. So I kind of have that
He's you.
he is me in a sense. I found it relatable in that sense. I'm like, yeah, F everyone in this Spider-Man universe and everyone else. Like it's just
And he eggs on Miles too, which is great. Like he
yes,
kind of like he brings out that rebellious side of Miles, which is really cool to see.
it
He's
definitely
like, yeah,
is.
man, like do it, yeah, do what you want, like F, like he doesn't say F this, but like like
But
he's
it
just
has
like
that vibe,
he's
he
really
has
just
that
he
vibe.
has that vibe, right, for sure.
But yeah, like everything about this film, like the characteristics are so different from the first one. The flow of because now Miles is we spend the first movie and a majority of the movie of Miles trying to become Spider-Man or getting to that point of I am Spider-Man, and you only really get to see him as Spider-Man for that maybe 15 minutes. This movie is all about him and all the things he can do, and the action sequences are fantastic. His villain in this movie, I guess I can call him Mr. Spot.
You could call him the Mr. Dodge if you want.
I don't know, but he is such a he's not the biggest Spider-Man villain you would think of, but
It's a deep cut for sure.
it's a deep
It's a
cut,
deeper cut.
and
You know what's funny though?
he's scary. He is different,
he, he
definitely scary.
he's scary. I've been watching the Spider-Man animated series kind of like just here and there, and I just happened to be watching the episode the other
Yeah,
day
we watched it
of
together, Shay.
yeah, of the Spot,
Yeah.
and it's just so funny that like that character was there, and I don't remember it at all, but
No.
like it works so well in this movie.
No, he's I love him, and I love how his villain his character design changes, and you'll see it in this film where he starts as one point where you see him in the trailer, but even if you look at the trailer, there's another cut of him where he's more powerful and he looks different. So again, it's like taking the animation and evolving it with even in the characters that makes sense. That never is like a distraction. It's never a oh I wouldn't have done that or an eyesore. It actually all works well. So I love Across the Spider-Verse. I thought it's a fantastic film.
It really is. It's I really do believe when we look at Across the Spider-Verse and we look at Into the Spider-Verse, like you said, Anthony, Into the Spider-Verse really introduced a new visual language to what, the world of animation could be. And then now we are at Across the Spider-Verse, which is completely a revolutionary achievement in animation. It is beginning to end an animated film that like Shay was saying, I can't believe we're watching this right now. I can't believe this movie exists. It really is a miracle of a movie because we've never seen anything like it before. And I think that's what makes it so special. It seamlessly blends all these different animation styles while also telling a story of one, obviously, of Miles, but all of these different variations of Spider-Mans from across these different multiverses, these different Spider-Verses. It's so impressive. And I think when we really dive into what makes this movie important, it's the characters. It's Miles, it's Gwen, and they are the ones that really get to shine in this. And I'm really happy that Gwen, who's performed brilliantly by Hailee Steinfeld, really gets her time to shine in this film. And a movie opens with her, and it's a lot of it. We get so much more time with her that we didn't get in Into the Spider-Verse. And I'm so glad we do because the movie's all the better for it. It's amazing. It's absolutely just beautiful, and I really do think this is one of the best Spider-Man stories we've ever seen on the big screen, in comic books, on TV, and video games. Like, this is in a league of its own, and the fact that it could seamlessly blend everything together and tell a more mature story while elevating everything that what made the first film special, it really is a miracle that this movie exists. And I'm looking in a year that, we're getting, Guardians of the Galaxy and now this back to back. That's some really incredible superhero films where it's been a little lackluster the last other couple entries that we've been getting. We're going to see what happens with another multiverse movie that's coming out 2 weeks after this one with The Flash. It's crazy that these films are releasing so close to one another when both of them do rely on, telling a multiversal story. So we'll see what happens with The Flash when we eventually watch that.
Multiverse is
But
hot right now.
multiverse is hot right now, and I think when we look at Into the Spider-Verse, that was really what I think where we really started to get that multiverse idea kicked off officially. Obviously, it was something that was known in Doctor Strange and Infinity War and Endgame especially, but when we're starting to get these different characters coming from these different places and things like that, I think popularity wise, Into the Spider-Verse was one of the first to really make it popular. And then since then it's been like just like this ongoing thing in the MCU and in other worlds obviously as well too. But man, what an incredible movie. I'm just still reeling from it. It's one of those films that I just cannot wait to watch it again and to just sit in the theater and get lost in it. My I do want to say my only real criticism of this film, it is a longer film, so there are moments where we're just spending a lot of time with Miles and his family, and I love that. But very similar to our discussion to Dune a couple years ago, that this film very much is a part one. And it's called Across the Spider-Verse. It was originally called Part One. The next one is Beyond the Spider-Verse. So those titles definitely make sense because we here at the Movie Podcast, we're not fans of Part Ones on your movies. Don't add that. Just call it something else. But it really is a part one to the story that it is telling. So I can only imagine where things go in Beyond the Spider-Verse. But the 2+ hours that you will spend with Across the Spider-Verse will be some of the best superhero moments that you've ever seen on the big screen. It really is spectacular.
What is the best cliffhanger this year? Fast 10 or Across the Spider-Verse?
Oh man, I mean, well, when we're talking about actually being like hanging off a cliff, it kind of is Fast 10, right? Because there's a lot of
A lot of
there's a
cliffs.
cliff in that at the end, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, like you're gonna end this movie, you're gonna you're gonna finish watching Across the Spider-Verse and immediately be like, I need the next one now.
Because you
I need to watch the
literally,
next one now.
you don't know what's gonna happen. It's so beautiful how it ends, and it literally, the entire theater that we were watching with, which is, again, shout out to Sony for inviting us to watch this movie, because when we were watching this with our small group, we were like, like, oh my god, like there were just gasps all
Yeah.
around. Something also that I think this movie does phenomenally is the score by Daniel Pemberton, but not even just the
Woo!
score itself, but the original music. You might be thinking, well, no one's going to be able to top Into the Spider-Verse with Sunflower. There are some absolute bangers in this movie that I cannot wait for, because they tell a much different story. There might not be a single track in here like how Sunflower was, but there were a lot of tracks spread out that just hit it.
Every track in this, like, from Daniel Pemberton's score to Metro Boomin's like soundtrack, it's
Oh
like
yeah.
it's just fire on this. And it was just one of those things I'm like, damn, I wish this, thank God it comes out this week, the album. Because I'm like, I've been dying
Thank
to
God.
listen to it and just to go through it because there's some incredible music in this. I'm glad you called that out, Shay, because yeah, music is something in this film that is just absolutely gorgeous. And it's one of those things too that I think doesn't get again, the visuals of this are what grab you right away. But what Daniel Pemberton did with the first score, with actually the scratching of the vinyl on top of an orchestra and remixing that, it's so unique. And then it gives Miles such a distinct sound that exactly like this is a Spider-Verse score.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that we were discussing before we kind of went into this movie was we talked about the strategy of this film, because you still have Phil Lord and Chris Miller as producers and writers. I think Phil Lord wrote the story for the movie, but you have a whole new group of directors, and you're kind of thinking about it. Okay, well, why is that necessary? Because the previous directors, I believe, do support this film in some sort of producer capacity, but you have a whole new set of directors. You have Joaquim Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, Justin K. Thompson. Kemp Powers, recently you would have probably just seen him with Soul, and then before that was One Night in Miami, which he got a chance to write. These individuals are clearly telling a different story at this point. While the DNA from Into the Spider-Verse has stayed the same, this is a much more mature film. It feels like the next step in what Spider-Man Spider-Verse movies should be. And each director also, you can tell, is bringing that level of difference in this film. Kemp definitely is channeling the characters, because that's what Kemp knows really well. He knows how to develop these characters, make them more grounded, and keep developing them further into a more mature people. And then Joaquim and Jonathan,
Justin.
Justin, are really showing that glamour and that grit to this film that's totally surrounding the different animation styles. They all did such a great job. Do we know if they're doing Beyond the Spider Verse, or is it another group? Because I feel like it
No,
would be
they
them,
are.
right?
They
Because
are
that
doing
makes
it. They are
sense.
doing it.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
makes
so
sense
they
to
are doing
continue this
across the
forward.
they did Across the Spider-Verse, they're doing Beyond the Spider-Verse. And then with this one that's also different from the first film is that the first film was written by Phil Lord, and then this one it's Phil Lord, Chris Miller, and David Callaham who
Mhm.
are writing this one. So it's a different writing, like a full, I guess, writing team. I'm sure Chris Miller worked on the first one as well, obviously with Phil. He was a producer on it. But now it's for them to all have story credits. It's a big film, so I totally get why there's a lot more of them attached to it, because yeah, it's a lot longer of a movie. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes, so a lot of that is the credits, obviously, because of all the animation and all the work that went into it. But it's a bigger movie, and you look at the scale of this film, you look at the scope of what's going on, it is absolutely massive. And I think Kemp was talking on Twitter recently that there's like 200 plus characters, 280 characters,
240, I think. Yeah.
240 different like Spider-Man characters in it. Yeah, not all of them are going to have speaking lines, but if you are a Spider-Man fan, you are going to be pointing out every single one of them. You know exactly who they are, and it just warmed my heart, and I'm sure it is with all of us here as lifelong Spider-Man fans. We're watching something that really brings everything together, and it says no, these aren't separate. We're all part of the same spider like verse together. And I think that was just so damn cool how it's handled. This is, again, it's a movie that every frame of it is a painting. I just want to stop and look and find every single moment in this movie and just live in it. It's like instantly, it's just incredible, incredible stuff.
Yeah, and so you were right, Daniel. It is 280, and there's about 95 named characters.
Wild.
And there's also, Spider-Man India, which actually plays a really relative role in this film, voiced by Karan Soni, who you will recognize him from Deadpool films, for example, as the most Dupinder. Um, Phenomenal. Every character has a purpose, and they're not just kind of quick cameos. They really are trying to push the story forward, and there are so many Easter eggs. I mean, honestly, in our first viewing, there's no way we were able to gather them all, but there are so many points where you're just going to be like, I can't believe they did that.
Yeah, it's like you're going to see once this film is out the millions of videos that are like, here are the
Breakdown,
1002 Easter
breakdown.
eggs from Across the Spider-Verse that you missed.
Yeah.
Number 5 will blow your mind. I mean, and there's a lot of ones that blew our minds in this. So if you're someone who likes to be, have to be surprised and not be spoiled, obviously we're not spoiling anything now, but just be mindful as the film approaches. If you're not able to watch it opening night, if you're on social media, people will be posting this. This is just the nature of the world now, so just be mindful. It could be a little bit of a minefields on social, so you want to go in and keep those surprises eventful for you, for sure.
I'm grateful that this movie was able to come out because I think our biggest worry going into the new year was there wasn't a lot of information on this film actually being production ready and film and like theater ready. So we were really skeptical back in January. Is this film actually coming out when it's
I mean,
supposed to? And I'm
even the version we watched was still an incomplete version of the film.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just grateful that this movie is coming out. I think it's coming out at a really good time. I
Oh
think
yeah.
a lot of people they want another Spider-Man story since, the last one was 2 years ago. And now we're going into a Spider-Man story with 300 different Spider-Man all at once.
Yeah.
This is the most you'll ever get I feel like in a film. And yeah, and there's some crazy cameos that you will be happy to see. And I think Sony Animation and the whole team behind it and the whole crew put so much love and joy into making it. It's one of those movies that's just unique. You don't really get a lot of this is such a collaborative work of art. It's such a collab because when you watch a movie, it's usually the director or the performances, and it's one that stands out more than the other. Well, this one is like everyone who's part of it, from sound design to animation to performances to story. Everyone does a fantastic job, and I can't say that the performances were better than this and that. The it's just a perfect film, and it's all in animated style. So
Yeah, it really is. And, Beyond the Spider Verse is still on track to be released in March of next year. So, luckily, the wait between the films isn't as large. It isn't a year for us. It's a little bit less. So, it will make the waits maybe easier, probably harder, because when you're done watching this movie, if you're not immediately trying to book the next showing to watch it again, you're going to want to just anxiously wait to see what comes next. But let's get to our final recommendations. Shahbaz, I'd love for you to start us off.
This is a movie that, like you just mentioned, Daniel, once you come out of your screening for it, you're going to be buying tickets for the next showing, if not the next time that you can possibly watch it, because this is a real gem. It's perfect. There's no notes from me. We movie finished. I just looked at it and I was like, can we put it on again? Is it that much trouble? Because I loved it. I
Just
loved it
rewind.
so much. Every emotion that I possibly could have had, I felt in this movie. It is such a step up from the last film, which was already my favorite film of that year. So I don't even know. I don't know how they did it. I'm shocked.
They really did something special. I'm right there with you, Shahbaz. This is a real gem. This is Across the Spider-Verse really is amazing. And I think you're going to remember the day that you watched it. There's going to be a before Across the Spider-Verse. There's going to be an after Across the Spider-Verse, because this really is a revolution in animation and performances that we've seen in animation, in score. It is such an incredible blend of everything that you know and love of Spider-Man, and it just dials it to 11. It is beginning to end just wondrous, and I can't believe it exists, and I'm just so happy that it exists, because I just want to keep watching it. Anthony, take us on home.
Across the Spider Verse is a real gem for me as well. I think this year is the most real gems we've ever given in a
I
year.
think so.
I feel like
Great
the year
year.
prior we were very limited, but now we've been just giving them out like friggin' chocolate. But yeah, no, Across the Spider Verse is a celebration of Spider Man, but it's also a celebration of art, and at the heart and soul of it, this movie captures why we love animation so much, but also the impact it has on us and our culture. I think, art is very expressive and we love looking at it. And I think a lot of people will love looking at Across the Spider Verse. What an amazing film.
It truly, truly is. Thank you again to our friends at Sony Pictures Canada for inviting us to watch this film. Be sure to check out all of our coverage for Across the Spider-Verse this week on the Movie Podcast. We will have our interviews with directors and some of the stars coming out tomorrow. And just look out through it on social. So if you're following us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd at the Movie Podcast, you can see all of our clips and coverage from those interviews, as well as YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Look forward to our interviews. You don't want to miss them. Maybe we'll have a couple more coming. We don't know. Maybe we do, but we'll let you know very, very soon. And of course, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse hits theaters June 2nd. Go watch it. It's a real gem. That was This Time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.